Good morning, and welcome to Bloody Fairy Tales with me, your Auntie Kaya. Today's fairy tale is going to be terrible, absolutely terrible. So, if you don't like blood, just stop this video now, okay? It is called The Goose Girl. So, once upon a time, many years ago, there was a queen who had a daughter who she loved very much. Now as the daughter grew older and the queen grew older, the queen worried about her daughter, what would happen to her after she was dead. She didn't have a father. What was she going to do? So the queen decided to marry her daughter to a very good king who lived quite a distance away. So she arranged the marriage, and she equipped her daughter with all sorts of great clothes and jewels and her own servant and her special horse. The princess had a fantastic magic talking horse named Falada. Her servant also had a horse, no name. Now the queen, before she set her daughter off, she made a little prayer, and she cut her flesh and drew 3 drops of blood and put them into a little handkerchief. And then she gave the handkerchief to her daughter, and she said, "Keep this handkerchief tucked into your bosom, and it will keep you safe, and I will be there protecting you no matter where you are." And so the princess did that, tucked it in there. She said goodbye to her mum, and off she went on her grand adventure. And she and the servant rode and rode for quite a while, and it was hot and dry, and they were very tired. And the princess decided, they came to a river, and the princess decided that she was thirsty. So she told the servant girl, "I'm thirsty, go down and fetch me some water." And the servant girl said, "I don't feel like it, do it yourself." And the princess was not used to this kind of backtalk, but, she was healthy and thirsty, so she got off her horse and went and got water. But when she leaned down into the stream to drink the water, the magic handkerchief with her mother's 3 drops of blood that had been in her bosom fell out into the river. And when it fell out, it spoke, and it said, "If this your mother knew, her heart would break in 2." And it drifted away. And the servant girl saw this, and she knew that the princess no longer had any power. And so when the princess went to get on Falada, the servant girl stopped her, and she said, "Take off your princess clothes and put on my servant clothes, and I'm going to ride Falada and be the princess, and you are going to be the servant, and if anybody questions you, I'll have you killed, so you better." And the princess had never experienced this before. She didn't know what to do, so she took off her clothes, put on the servant clothes, went on the horse. The servant girl put on the beautiful, princess's wedding dress and got on the beautiful horse Falada, and they rode until they got to the castle of the king, who she was supposed to marry. And of course, everybody saw the woman in the beautiful wedding dress with the fancy horse and assumed that was the princess. And so the servant girl's like, when she arrived, she's like, "I am displeased with the horse that rode in with me. I want you to kill it." And the king was about to marry her, so he wanted to make her happy, so he agreed to have Falada killed. And the princess was obviously very upset by this. And meanwhile, the princess was given a job as the Goose Girl. So there wasn't really much of a job in the kitchen, so she worked with Conrad, the goose boy, and would take the geese out every day. It was a hard job. So with the last, she had a little tiny silver hairpin in her hair, and she used that to go to the abattoir where they had butchered her horse, and she begged them with her silver hairpin to take her horse's head and to hang it, to nail it underneath the bridge so that she could go and visit her beautiful dead horse every now and then. And so what happened was, her day would go like so. the princess and Conrad would walk out with the geese, and when they got to the bridge that had Falada's head, the princess would want to visit. And she would go to the head and she would say, "Alas, Falada hanging there." And the head would reply, "Alas, young queen, how ill you fare. If this your mother knew, her heart would break in two." And then they would walk some more with the geese. And then the princess would take off her hat and unpin her beautiful long flowing hair. And Conrad, being a pest, would try to like get at her and pick her hair. So then the princess would say, "Blow, blow, thou gentle wind, I pray, and blow Conrad's little hat away, and make him chase it here and there, till I've bound up all my hair, and gathered it up again." And the wind would come and blow Conrad's hat, and he would have to run and run and run, try to get his hat. And the princess would laugh and braid her hair, and eventually it would be all bound up. And they were done. They'd take the geese, and the day would be over. This happened for a number of days, maybe even weeks in a row. But Conrad was getting upset with this. So he went to the king, and he's like, "I don't like my new assistant. I don't like her." And the king's like, "Yeah, well, tell me about it. I'm not too happy with my new wife either, but yeah, what? So Conrad's like, "Well, listen, this freaking servant girl, every day we go to talk to a dead horse's head, and she says these words, 'Alas, Falada hanging there,' and then the horse replies and says, 'Alas, young queen, how ill you fare. If this your mother knew, her heart would break in two.' And then, when I try to grab her hair, she says some magic words, and, I don't like it." And the king's like, "Huh, okay, yeah, that's kind of weird." So the next day, the king follows them, and he sees her go and talk to Alas, Falada hanging there. "Alas, young queen, how ill you fare. If this your mother knew, her heart would break in two." And he sees Conrad, and he hears the princess say, "Blow, blow, thou gentle wind, I pray, and blow Conrad's little hat away, and make him chase it here and there, till I bound up all my hair and gathered it up again." And the king is like, this is a pretty cool goose girl. I don't know what Conrad's saying, but there's something unusual about her. There is something unusual about her. So he calls her in to the throne room, and he says, actually, no, he doesn't. He goes to visit her. He goes to visit her in the kitchen, and he says, "Is there anything that you would like to tell me?" And the princess at this point says, "I cannot speak of what has happened to me because I cannot speak of it to a human living soul." And the king says, "Well, if that's the case, why don't you tell your worries to this old wood stove here? It's a really good listener, and it'll make you feel better." And he left, and he went to the other side, the other room where the wood stove, the other side was there, and he listened. And sure enough, the princess sat down next to the wood stove, and she began to cry. She was like, "I'm really a princess, and the evil servant girl took my clothes and my horse, and they killed my horse, and I hate it here, blah, blah, blah." And the king is like, "My suspicions are confirmed. This is the queen that I really wanted to marry." So he goes over, and he's like, "Is this true?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, well, I want to marry you. I got to take care of some business first here. So, yeah." So he hid her in the closet, and he calls the servant girl in, and he pretends that he's having a hard time making a judgment for someone who has done very wrong. He's like, "My dear, I need my help. I need your help." And he lays out this scenario, and she doesn't know it's about her. He says the servant has been very terrible, and they've done this and that, and I just don't know what I should do to punish them. And the servant girl says they should be put in a barrel with nails poking in and snakes, and then rolled down a hill until they're dead. And the king says, "And that will be your reward." And then he marries the princess, and they live happily ever after. And I managed to finish this in exactly 10 minutes. So that is the end of the Goose Girl. Be good, kids.